That's really reminiscent of a couple commissioners' meetings I've been at recently.
Except nobody got arrested.
No, not yet. Night's not
There was
over.
that phone call.
Yes, they come. First, with apologies to Roberta. You know, I'm here for the reason all of you are. First, because Beechbrook's a great agency. You know, family-centered, child-centered practice. Whether you're talking intensive treatment down to community-based care, but mostly because of Mario. And again, with apologies to Roberta, I love this guy. I've known him for 25 years. Probably known him well for 10. And to the kids, there's an old saying that if you don't learn from history, you're prone to repeat it. I really don't think that's true. I think in a societal perspective, there's ebbs and flows, and you go through things over and over. Recently, we're going through some child deaths. Pretty bad stuff. Back in the 90s, we had some child deaths that were real bad stuff as well. And back then, the kids in custody doubled. We ended up with over 6,000 kids in care. And today, what we've learned is, we've had some ugly child deaths, but that hasn't happened. And one, it's because of the great work done by the Director of Children and Family Services. Don't care what the she is an excellent director, but it's also the maturation and the learning in our community, whether you're talking Maureen D., Judy Peters, Bill Denahan, Deb Rexler, love, but mostly Mario. You know, when I took over in 2001, we had 6,400 kids. And things were not out of control, but it wasn't good. We also had, this sounds familiar, a budget crisis. Now, I will tell you, the budget crisis we have today makes the one I went through nothing. And guys, it's getting worse before it gets better. And if you give me 1 second to speak, I think it was abominable that the 2 men running for governor of Ohio had a debate and didn't talk about the state budget deficit once in the entire debate. That's a crime. But we had a budget crisis. And it was, how did you get out of this? So I had a short list of men and women that I called upon as director to work with me, and Mario was one of them. And I think the reason we're going to get through this budget crisis, and the reason that the kids in care didn't go through the roof, we have maybe 100 more, but it has not gone through the roof, is because of the work that Mario has really done the past 10 years in this community with other child welfare leaders to learn more about how to deal with kids and families, kids in trauma, kids who are at risk. How do you take those technologies, those things that we do so well on a campus like this, but take them into the neighborhood, take them where that child, that family lives, and be able to do it? This guy has committed his life to it. I was there, not for a fleeting moment, I spent a while. But I moved on to do some other stuff. And he's still there. And I just think that's a remarkable thing. He's a remarkable man. And I also got to know him as a friend. And I'll just share one more story, then I'll sit down because you do want to get out of here before midnight. I every spring go on an outing, a golf outing, where I like golf and I go with friends. But the whole idea is I get the hell out of Cleveland. And then what I do is in Vegas stays in Vegas. Not everybody's stuff stays in Vegas, but some people stay in Vegas. I've learned Mario does a ski trip with some friends. And while the physical activity is different, I believe the basic philosophy of the event is the same. And I think, really actually melded kind of as friends. So we had the same philosophy of doing child welfare work. And I found he's really the same kind of guy I am. Better guy than I am, but the same kind of guy. And he's a gentleman. He is a real treasure for this community. And the work he's done for 20 years, I don't think you get recognized in your own time. I think it's probably 10 years from now we're really going to realize the depth of what we've done. But I'm here because I want to recognize publicly what he's done in 20 years. It's pretty remarkable stuff.
Kathy Pender, former board chair and the nominator of Mario for the Mandela Award.
Well, what a wonderful occasion to be here. 20 years that Mario's been here. And I do want to read what I did say in my nomination. It would be difficult to find someone more dedicated and highly regarded in the field of mental health services than Dr. Mario Tonti. And apparently they felt that way too, and she received the award next week. I feel truly privileged to have known Mario all this time and to work with him for the last 20 years in the capacity of the board, committee member. My first experience at Beachbrook was 50 years ago when I was a tutor teaching Beachbrook children to read. This was before they had a school here. So that was my first experience, and I loved it then. Then I came back and did my graduate work and internship in psychology at Beachbrook. So I've been here a long time. But 20 years ago, when Mario came with all his qualifications and the recommendations, I thought, well, here's someone I would like to get to know better. And one of my ways of doing that was, I thought very boldly, I asked you, Mario, if I could possibly be on the board. Now, I'm not sure whether you thought that was a good idea, but I felt very brave in suggesting such a thing. And you very nicely introduced me to the board, and I started my career as a committee member and a board member. But we have worked a long time on a lot of things, probably every aspect of Beachbrook. But one thing I'm sure of, Mario, is that you share Jim's and my passion for working with families and children with special needs. And of course, Beachbrook has these very special needs, as you saw from Kate's presentation, of the most severely disturbed children that there are. And this is really the last stop for these children. Mario has remained an advocate dedicated to providing the best there is in the mental health field. He's caring and never wavering in his commitment to our children and families in the community. His accomplishments are many, and programs have been initiated and developed. But throughout it all, Mario, the man has remained consistently compassionate and loyal and dedicated to his mission, to your mission and values. And that goes along with all your relationships too, not only with your family, as has been said. You talk so fondly of your family, but with all the board members, all the staff, everybody feels the same. So I consider you a long-time loyal friend and colleague, and I've loved working with you, and congratulations on 20 years.
Deb Forbes, the Director of Cuyahoga County Children's Services.
Good evening. Mario, I'm so happy to be here to help you celebrate 20 years. And I was thinking to myself this afternoon, gee, I've known you 20 years. I was at the juvenile court for 10 years, and that's when our relationship first started. And I remember all the conversations when we were trying to develop new programs for the $17 million that came through from ODYS. And I remember your innovation, your passion for the children, and we were talking about kids that are involved in the juvenile justice system. And I remember just your kindness and your quiet way about you and your large vision, which really I thought about for a long time, and I think about that often. And then I got the opportunity to work with you again when I went over to child welfare, and I was an administrator there. And I remember it was almost my first day on the job, and I was at HEP for some kind of a meeting, and there were a lot of people that I didn't know, and I saw Mario. There was a one face in the audience. And I remember saying to you, you know, I really feel that providers can do it better, quality, and more financially efficient. And you said I wouldn't say that to too many people if you plan on being around. And I remember that comment so well. And what strikes me is at the time, I didn't really realize the relationship or the lack of relationship between the providers and the Department of Children and Family Services. There were some rough times there in terms of relationship, blame game over a lot of things that went on. And when I think of the development over the years that you were key in your role with the Alliance and the trusting relationship that has been built over all these years, and the partnership together and the wonderful programs we've developed and all the wonderful things that have occurred for kids, we have to owe it to you. There's no question. And our relationship that we have with the county and with the Alliance and with agencies like Beachbrook is touted literally all over the country and certainly all over the state. And people come to us all the time and want us to talk about how did we develop a trusting relationship like that through bad times, good times, difficult financial times, and we know we have difficult financial times now. And one thing that I can say is you've you've always been there as a strong advocate and a partner, and you've helped me certainly through difficult times steering this agency clear through the trouble that we're going to, and you've been an advocate and a supporter of me, and I'm forever indebted to you. Thank you.